This time we'll take questions from you all as well. But actually, I'm going to ask a question of Joseph first, because we had a discussion as we were preparing for this event about the different kinds of apprenticeships out there. And I really like the way that you explained all the different terms related to traditional, non-traditional. Pam's here, so she can correct, or Amy's here, she can correct you if you're wrong. But would you mind sharing a little bit about that before we get started?
I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. Push it. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And folks who are practitioners in the apprenticeship space know this to be true, that there are registered apprenticeships, as Amy talked about. There are non-registered apprenticeship programs. There are those that when you launch them, they could be have a joint apprenticeship committee, and you may involve unions. There are others that may be merit-based programs that focus on employers that do not have union membership or representation. And so I think that there's a lot of different flavors and ways that apprenticeship can look. I know when I think about apprenticeship, or when I'm talking to employers about what their apprenticeship program can look like, there are tools in the toolbox, and there are ways that you can construct that, and there are certainly models that you can follow. But realistically, what I found is that each apprenticeship program, while they may follow a set of standards or have a series of guiding documents, all of them do, especially those that are registered, the way in which the curriculum is delivered and the way in which the on-the-job training happens, whether some are front-loaded, others happen in tandem, others happen on the back end, it can look very different. And so there is no one right way to do it, certainly, and there's a lot of different flavors and ways that it could happen, and that you could see it work for you as an employer and as all those that are involved.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So the first question we have for the panel is just to tell us how your organization is currently working with apprenticeship models. You can start out. Right there.
There it is. Okay, happy to start. So in San Joaquin County, we started the first in the state of California high school apprenticeship program. And let me give you some context. I came from hanging out with teenagers for over 19 years at a small comprehensive high school as the college and career counselor there. I came over to the County Office of Education in 2019 to start the College and Career Readiness Department, and was thrust into the world of apprenticeships because my department inherited our adult apprenticeship program, where we oversee 45 apprenticeship programs up and down the state of California. We serve as their lead educational agency, where we receive funding through the Chancellor's Office, which is called Related Supplemental Instruction Funding. So coming into my new role, knowing zero zilch goose egg about what an apprenticeship is, tapping upon what my background was, and that is youth, we decided to write a California Apprenticeship Initiative grant focusing on how we can get youth into apprenticeships. This took me on a journey of so many meetings and learning about what an apprenticeship is, and quite honestly, this is nothing new. Apprenticeships have been around since the Middle Ages. We just don't know what we're doing, sadly, in the United States with youth and apprenticeships. And if we look to the European models, who have really structured their entire system around apprenticeships, earning, learning, doing as you go, that's what we need to be doing in America. And I have to tell you, after 37 years working in education and helping high school students find life after high school and what their goals are, this is the absolute most exciting time I've had in my career, because this is it. This apprenticeship is where we are, and if we don't all employers get on this, then we are sadly remiss, because one of the things that I started saying is tomorrow's workforce is in the classroom today. And our 16 and 17-year-old workers out there are amazing. And the time is behind us where we are asking them to come to work for free. Internships, mentorships, that's all great. Short-term, zero training that goes along with it for the most part. We need to advance what we know our youth can do. We need to invest in our youth, and we need to pay our youth for the long-term sustainable careers that they can get into, and these are careers. So I'm probably too long-winded on that, but you can tell I typically bring my pom-poms because I'm very, very excited about what we can do for our 16 and 17-year-olds, but the biggest barrier is our employers. Employers need to recognize that, oh my gosh, they're teenagers, and yes, you can hire them, and yes, you can mentor them, and they're very, very loyal, and they want to work for you.
Thank you. And I believe when we talked, so you have the adult apprenticeship models that are happening at your location, as well as I think it was 6 youth apprenticeship models with the County Office of Education as the employer. Is that correct?
Kind of. So we started, our employers currently are our school districts within San Joaquin County. We started with 3 small school districts, Ripon Unified, Linden Unified, and our own County Office of Education hired the first occupation, which was Information Technology Support Specialist, smack dab in the middle of COVID. So think about how that rolled out, where our students weren't allowed on campus, but yet our IT departments in these three school districts allowed those apprentices into their IT departments. They were paid day one of their job, and they were also taking all of their RSI classes at our local community college, San Joaquin Delta College. Since then, we've started 3 more occupations. The second one was in teacher's aide paraprofessional. We cannot find aides in our high schools, and in any of our school districts, excuse me. And the third was assistant farm manager. We're a very agriculturally rich state. And the fourth that's pending, if you look at the DAS site right now, it posted on January 9th, and it's up for the 30-day review, is for hospitality and marketing specialist.
Thank you.
I should say we have registered to date. Again, this started in 2020. Our first 6 apprentices were registered on November 12th, 2020. To date, we have registered 19 high school students with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. We have completed 2. Actually, I stopped by the DAS site today to pick up the second certificate to hand out to our students. So I am really excited. And we will complete our 3rd one by the end of this month. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Lisa, can you tell us what SETA Head Start is doing as it relates to apprenticeship models right now?
Sure. So I feel even less confident about talking up here because I came into apprenticeship programs not knowing anything. I will say thank goodness for my DAS contact she's right there, we are a registered program. We just graduated 24 participants in early childhood education, so we are thrilled with that. We realized, much like K-12, that there are no teachers or teacher assistants. If you work in early childhood education, that's even a bigger problem. And one of the things that we saw is, as a grantee for Sacramento County, we serve a little over 5,000 children countywide, birth to age 5. In the 21-22 school year, we could not open collectively. We also have some delegate agencies that are LEAs. We couldn't open up over 400 childcare slots because we didn't have teachers. I like to say 3-year-olds need an adult in the classroom. They do not mind themselves. But it's not a field. It is not one of your non-traditional where you get paid $33 an hour. I see Janine out there who's for the county. That's one of the things that we work hard to try to work on is salary structure. But early ed is never going to be $35, $40 an hour. But we did take 28 with 24 graduating women, and I say women because that's who they ended up being, families who were at or below the poverty line because that's our clientele. We put them through their basic 12 units of class plus their work experience. They graduated with their 12 units, so they started out, and we also worked with our union partners to make sure that everything that we did, equitable pay, they came on, they were employees from the beginning. So all of their medical benefits, retirement, all of those kind of things. And then we had a tiered system. They've all finished their 12 units. They're getting in the process of getting their California permit, which also then allows them, it's like a passport to, like, they can go to school districts to get better paying jobs. We hope that they don't. So far they haven't. We're knocking on wood. But so we are working with them to we finished their 12 units. We finished their graduation ceremony 2 weeks ago. I was telling Joseph, because Joseph was one of the people that helped us start our program over at Los Rios. And so we had 28 mamas all up on the podium, and we listened to their success stories. So while they may not be making $33 an hour, this is what they were telling us. This is the first time that I've ever had a job. No one believed that I could go to college, and I'm doing it. Most of the, and this is what got all of us, is that their kids stood up to say, I'm gonna get choked up, I'm so proud of you, Mommy, for working so hard. Being a mom, going to school, and still doing my soccer practice. They are all now the most loyal, as you talked about, the most loyal staff that we have. We are working with them. I'm doing contract ed now for a class, and half of them are the people who were in the apprenticeship program who want to continue. We are paying for that. At our agency, we have a career incentive program that we help them, that we pay for their college. We continue to pay for their college, and we encourage them and we work with them to continue that educational journey. In addition, we gave them that extra support. Because we have centers all over Sacramento County, we found out where they lived, what was going to be the best place to place them for their career, so that if there was transportation was an issue, so we were able to put them near their site. And most of them had children in our program, so we worked around their hours. We did monthly cohort meetings with them where they would come together. We would put them through additional training, learning some soft skills, just an opportunity to talk amongst themselves and to talk about some of the struggles that they were having or some of the successes. So we couldn't be prouder of our program and how it's worked to really change the lives of those 24 families, which is our mission for Head Start, is to make differences in families' lives. And right now we have a hold because we've just finished our first cohort, and we will be looking at potentially doing a second cohort. But right now we still continue to work with our apprentices to continue their education. And again, could not have done this without the help of helping us write our standards, guiding us the entire way, and our labor partners at SETA. So thank you.
Thank you. It's always very inspiring to hear you talk. I will say I heard some very clear things there when it came to flexibility of the approach to education based on their schedules and their needs, and the cohort design for support, as well as other supports potentially being offered. And then Head Start was, so you were the employer as well. You were sponsoring and you were the employer.
We were the employer. So we hired them all, and they've continued to stay with us. They've made probation. They've moved up the salary schedule. And yeah, we've had them speak at various events to let other families know that some of the things that Head Start can do for them and help them move them out of poverty.
Thank you. And Christy, so I was very impressed when I learned about a pilot that Wealth-Based Health was doing, a very, I thought, innovative way of finding funding to create a work-based learning opportunity. Similarly, to serve the families that are coming in for their services and hire from the community and bring people in a work-based opportunity. So you may have ventured into apprenticeship funding since you and I last talked, but when we had initially talked, WellSpace had been very creative with some CARES funding through, I believe it was the city of Rancho Cordova, to create a pilot cohort to kind of create your own apprenticeship. And I just thought that was an interesting and innovative way. Also during COVID, I believe you did it, to start a solution. So you can talk about that or whatever you want that you're doing at WellSpace.
Oh, anything, all right. My favorite recipe.
In apprenticeship, okay.
So WellSpace Health is a community health care system, and so we provide medical care, behavioral health care, suicide prevention health care, maternal health care in the community. So a lot of uninsured patients and a lot of Medi-Cal insured patients. We're in the communities of North Highlands, we're in Del Paso Heights, we're in Oak Park. You know, we're in those neighborhoods where there is often a high uninsured or Medi-Cal recipient population. And what we know about healthcare is that healthcare disparities are reduced when the staff members interacting with this population look like them, speak their language, right? And that there's really a healthcare parity when that whole care team looks like that population. And when we were out there thinking, who are we hiring for our front desk receptionists? Who are we hiring as our medical assistants? It was the type of people who could afford to go to a Carrington College or something like that for a 6-month, 9-month, 12-month typical learning to become a medical assistant and then get hired on. And that's not necessarily the type of people that are from the communities that we're in. And so we said, okay, we really need to hire from our communities, and the only way that that's going to be successful is if, like the apprenticeship models you're hearing about today, we pay them to study. We don't expect them to study for free and then come to us for employment. And so since goodness, yeah, it was about COVID, about 2020, 2021, somewhere in there. We are on our 3rd cohort of medical assisting students. And each cohort is about 25 people large, so we're at about 75 people at this point who have graduated successfully from the program. From day one, they are paid for the learning. We were able to fund this through a couple of different relationships. We partnered with the Greater Sacramento Urban League. We partnered with Bank of America on some grant and some philanthropic giving. And then we also partnered, as you mentioned, with the city of Rancho Cordova through some CARES Act funds. So a variety of patchwork funding. So I was taking a lot of photos when Amy was showing the photos about where we can start getting some of that funding to graduate 75 medical assistants who are 75% female and 80% persons of color, and almost 50% of them speak a second language as well too. So we're building our workforce from the ground up. And in our first cohort, there was a gentleman who told a story who said, no one in my family has ever had a job that paid benefits. I didn't even know how that world worked. And now he has a job that pays benefits. And not only that, but he was working 3 part-time jobs prior to joining our apprenticeship medical assisting program. And now he only has 1 job, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. He's home with his kids. He's reading with his kids. He's doing homework with the kids. They're going to the zoo on Saturdays. His family had never experienced that kind of lifestyle. They had always experienced a hustle and work culture and latchkey kid kind of lifestyle. And he was more emotional, not because he was proud of what he did. He was emotional because he said, my kids are going to grow up in a completely different way than I did. And that was the gift that he took pride in. And so we're very excited to say, what does a healthcare professional job look like for you, where you're giving back to your community, where you look like your community, where you're speaking your community's language. And there is a Senate bill out there, Senate Bill 525, that was passed that says now California healthcare workers are $25 minimum wage. So all those medical assistants, all those front desk staff members, that's a really great wage. So there's a real opportunity here, not just through the traditional hiring mechanisms, but also through this type of apprenticeship looking type of program to really change people's lives.
Thank you for that. And in some discussions that we'd had previously, even before we conceived of this panel, I remember hearing you talk about finding the need to build your own program because of, similar to what Lisa said, being able to make it flexible to what the constituents need in your communities. So I really appreciate that great work that you've done. And I want to go to Colleen now. Colleen, you've done some amazing things with Cyber Proud. You have a high employability coming out of your apprenticeship program. So tell us, what's the magic? How are you doing that?
Oh, God. Yeah, thank you, Renee. So, yeah, we did start Cyber Proud during the height of COVID. We started under a ARPA or a CARES fund grant that we received through the city of Sacramento. And this work dovetailed off of a lot of work that was happening through Valley Vision, the ICT Council. And so the emphasis was on cybersecurity, but we learned so much through those first two cohorts is that we at that time, you know, we hear like the average age of an apprenticeship is 30 years old. I think ours was slightly higher than that for that group, where a lot of people who were pushed out of the economy during COVID, if you think about retail, hospitality, people were home, they were taking care of their kids, they were like, I cannot sustain my lifestyle this way, I've got to find a different way. And so I think that was the intent of what we started there was to create an opportunity for anybody to work in technology, because we kept hearing the same thing where people said, well, if I didn't take calculus when I was in high school, or if I didn't have a 4-year degree, I couldn't get into technology. But the other thing is, especially with young people, they have lived with it, they know it, and they don't value the skills that they just inherently have. So we asked them questions during the interview process. Well, tell us a little bit about what you do in, helping members of your family program, the remote to the TV or set up a printer or things like that. The other thing is employers need people who have that talent, but they're discounting them without that degree. So here was an opportunity for us to introduce, we started with a pre-apprenticeship program where they received 320 hours of the foundational skills to work in IT support or cybersecurity. So someone who, let's say for instance, a community college student who had a year's worth of post-secondary education suddenly had no coursework. Again, remembering COVID, there was no online instruction during that time. We had these poor students who were like, oh my God, I'm hungered to learn, but I have no way to. And we really embraced that opportunity right from the very beginning. And so what we've learned is that a lot of students learn about things, but they don't necessarily have the skills to do those things. And so what we try to do is provide an opportunity through our pre-apprenticeship program, which starts out with 320 hours, and they attend class Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 for 8 weeks. And I want to tell you, in the last 4 cohorts that we've had 97% attendance and completion of those programs. But a lot of it is because the vetting that we do, they go through a whole application process, in-person interviews, things like that. It's really important to us that we make sure that they're committed to the program because of the investment that we're making in the dollars. So for instance, we started under the city of Sacramento. We received a grant through the city of Elk Grove, similar ARPA funds, as well as city of Rancho Cordova. And now we have an initiative through the California Apprenticeship Initiative through the Chancellor's Office where we're offering full apprenticeship. And so, and we're offering 3 separate tracks. So the entry-level IT support, cybersecurity, and then software development. These are really tailored specifically for what we've heard that employers want. The upside of the full apprenticeship is they're completing that, again, that pre-apprenticeship, those foundational skills. So when they go in to work for an employer and they are now eligible to receive those 2,000 hours of on-the-job training, they're ready to go to work day one. They know the technology, they're able to produce. And so our feeling is, from an employer's perspective, is that this is a huge value add for them. The other thing is that we're in discussion with multiple employers who are asking us for additional skills. So for instance, like AI, we're now looking at how do we tailor or offer that RTI or that RSI and help an employer customize what they need. So through that process, again, so it could be different certifications. I'm probably running on here a little bit, but like cybersecurity, there's a component of that that is now directly tied to AI because it's moving so fast. We really have to understand what those employers need. Many times the employers don't even know what they need because it's moving so fast. So we're, back to the point that we'd heard earlier, is that we need employers to really partner with us and help them build the talent that they need to sustain their businesses into the future. So thanks.
Yes, thank you for that. And I appreciated the comments about kind of screening people in versus screening them out instead of asking, do you have this skill or qualification? You're more asking like, have you ever helped your grandma program a remote? There's different creative ways of finding out if somebody has the skills and aptitude or the ability to learn in the field. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, I'll touch on it later.
Joseph, what is American River College doing? It might be more than one thing.
Yes, that's true. We are doing lots of things in and around the apprenticeship space. So certainly, we're talking today about our new and innovative apprenticeship programs, much like all of the ones that you've heard my fellow panelists talk about. At the same time, we have a long-standing history with our building and construction trades, which is a whole other side. But focusing on the former is that, so we are really doing a lot in and around the coordinating funding, certainly offering related supplemental instruction or RSI because we are a college. We offer classes. And we do that in partnership with each of our employer partners in terms of curating curriculum, utilizing existing curriculum to develop an apprenticeship program. We do a lot of our collaborative work, right? We heard at the very beginning, these are really collaborative programs that we aren't doing by ourselves, and naturally we shouldn't be doing them by ourselves. So we're working with employers, we're working with unions, we're working with HR folks within those organizations, working, with all of the stakeholders and identifying the stakeholders that need to be at the table to really develop a sustainable program that is set up for success. That includes logistics, that includes writing grants, principal grant writer and director and implementer and wearing all of the hats, right, that go along with the programming. I think part of that speaks to some of the necessity, especially when launching a new program, to really take a hard look at, I mentioned it, but who's at the table, but also what capacity do you have as an organization or even as a community college, because this is not light work. It can be made light by having all of the different folks there to support the lift, but it's not something that you just necessarily turn over overnight. I think it does take a lot of really time and investment and energy by all involved to really take ownership of the program and really see that if you are, whether it's going after funding, CAI funding to support the program or other funding sources like we saw before, it's really critical to understand how those are going to be infused into the program in support of its success and namely the people that you're serving. Because that really, I think, we don't get into this work because some do, maybe because there's a grant funding opportunity and that might be an incentive. But really, and I heard a number of my colleagues up here talk a lot about this, is that equity is at the focus of this work. And if you want to do work in communities that have a high impact, that are moving the needle and really honestly changing lives, this is that work. And that doesn't happen just by virtue of, hey, let's go get a grant and figure out how to spend it. That's part of a small part of what we do. And so I think as an LEA, a local education agency, community colleges, I think, are well served to fulfill that role and to be a partner really in developing these programs.
Yes, thank you. Thanks very much. And for emphasizing the collaboration that's required to really get it off the ground and sustain it. So the next question for the panel is, what is something you learned while building your apprenticeship program that maybe you wish you knew before, or something that would help others that are interested in pursuing apprenticeships or non-traditional or youth apprenticeships? So Pam, we'll start with you.
Wow, there's so much that I wish I knew. Boy, hindsight is beautiful, isn't it? There's really just not one thing. I'm going to touch upon the difficult one. We're dealing with 16 and 17-year-olds, and they're working And we needed, and we are implementing more wraparound services for those students, because the design of our program is students are going to college concurrently while in high school. It's that win-win. They're taking college classes toward all transferable classes in all of the occupations that I mentioned toward moving into a higher career later on. But the high schools don't always have the wraparound services in place for these students. And so that's one of the things I wish we had in place earlier on, because we have not had success for all of our apprentices. I said we've registered 19 of them. Not all of them have clearly made it through. The program's designed for 3 years, starting their junior year of high school, so 2 years while in high school, and then 1 year post-high school going to the community college. So that was one of the things that I really wish we had in place, and so now we're emphasizing that more with the high schools, because we at the County Office of Education in San Joaquin, we are serving as the intermediary. We work with the high schools. We work, and they're the employers. We work with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, and we work with the students. Tomorrow we're going to Lincoln Unified School District, and we're onboarding 11 new apprentices just tomorrow in 2 different occupations. But we're bringing the parents in, we're educating the parents, we're educating the school staff, and then their mentors. So the kids who are working directly in IT or with whom they're working in the classrooms as a teacher aide, they have to understand all of that. That's just one of the areas. We're trying to work around the school unions, because these students are now working in the school districts. And that's one that I'd just really rather not deal with, because if you're good enough to educate them, you should be good enough to employ them, right? When they're 18, they're going to be paying into the unions anyways. So that's just one of the areas.
Thank you for sharing that. Definitely. It sounds like the student wraparound support is really important, and what we don't want to talk about is also challenging. Lisa, what do you wish you had known, or what did you learn doing it that's really difficult?
I think that what I wish I would have known was that we would have had a stronger team, because it takes a lot of people to get people through college and to get them employed. And we all had lots of other jobs we were doing, right? So I've got lots of other jobs and other team members. So I wish that I would have known the amount of time that it takes to really be successful. Although I feel like we were successful, it was a lot of work. The other thing is that I think that we had really good mentors in our classroom, but one of the things that I would have added was more tutors to help them navigate the college system, especially in an online world. These were all first-time college student people. Technology was not necessarily their friend for a lot of them. Not knowing how to proceed in college, what are the norms? And I get it as a college instructor. I think that's what was really helpful in our sense, is like they were afraid to ask questions of their instructors, because because a lot of them came from cultures where you don't ask questions of your teachers. They tell you to do something, you do it. Even if you don't understand it, like you don't know what they want. And I think that I would have invested in like a one person that really was the liaison with each college instructor to help them through those hardships, because navigating college and navigating the online world, I've done both, and I will tell you I like as an instructor the online world, because I can teach from, my house in the pair of yoga pants and just, dress up on Tuesday nights, because that's when my office hours are. But you miss that relational piece where people really begin to see you as somebody other than this face that comes on for their video lecture, and they are willing to ask you questions. They're willing to relate their stories. And so I think I would have added, for me, I would have had that liaison with their classroom, with their college instructors.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Very similar. I think the prep of the apprentice is key to success. So in the Wealth-Based Health Medical Assisting program, again, these are folks who traditionally would not have gone to school, would not have seen themselves as a student, or perhaps have had bad experience as a student, you know, in high school or whatever it may have been. And so we talk to them about, talk to your families about what it's going to be like, about when you study at night, right? You know, no, I'm not going to be able to do dinner every night, or, you know, whatever those negotiations are in their family. So we helped prep them for conversations with their family. We helped prep them around if your car breaks down, how are you still going to get to class? You know, let's install Uber on your phone together so there's a plan B for you so you can still get to class, because we had a fairly strict attendance policy for the program. And so, you know, one popped tire, you know, and that might really kind of ruin the attendance policy. We talked about, as simple as, so as a medical assistant, you had to wear scrubs, right? And so we said, okay, you're required to wear scrubs. Well, it's really hard to afford a $50 pair of scrubs, and I need to buy more than one because I need to wear them 5 days a week. And so we said, oh, yeah, let's get you some scrubs, right? And so it was all just about, how do I prepare this student, prepare this apprentice to be successful. And so a lot of that prep work and a lot of that reflection on your own, how do we help this person be successful, will help make sure your program is successful.
Oh, thank you for that. So I'm definitely hearing in some of this that it's not just build it and set it out there. It's a continual refining, figure out what's working, what's not working, where students or apprentices dropping out of the process, and then refining your own processes, even as the employer and partner in it, in order to accommodate them. So thanks for that.
Hi. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and think about it from the placement side. And I guess what I'll tell you is, so between August of last year through now, we've had 125 individuals go through pre-apprenticeship training. They're all eligible to receive 2,000 hours of their on-the-job training. However, that's what I'll say is that the traditional apprenticeship program that we see under construction and so forth has required the involvement of a labor union. And so what we find is that when we engage private employers in a discussion around apprenticeship, there is, and it's the truth, there's hesitation, because they go, wait, is that, do I have to join a union? How's that going to impact my business, and so forth? So we, honestly, part of our challenge is simply the verbiage, is that if our request to an employer right now for any of ours, because again, it is a new, innovative apprenticeship program. It's an IT, it's cybersecurity, it's software development, right? You don't typically see those sorts of occupations or roles within, a public entity. I guess I'll put it that way. Even though we could talk about public sector because the demand is crazy, we know that. But so, trying to use this, follow the process where it says, well, we are offering a Division of Apprenticeship Standards registered apprenticeship program, which requires a employer sponsor. And there's documentation, there's all the other things that an employer is required to do as that role in providing that on-the-job training and so forth. And so just the process of that, I find, is a little, maybe a little scary for your average private sector employer. So I think there's some hesitation. I guess I could say the same thing in the public sector. So we've had multiple meetings with, like, at the local level. So, and even at the state of California, they have a need for our people, but they just don't know how to navigate through some of the policy considerations in either establishing a new apprenticeship program or hiring an apprentice, a true registered apprentice. So and I'm sure there's other people in the room who can talk about that, but back to the point, these are really exciting times for the state of California. We heard it from Amy, where you were saying, there's huge opportunity and upside to it. It's a matter of, us who are working on the ground trying to get people to employment, right, and give them the tools that they need to be successful. It's how do we navigate through some of these other policy considerations that are really going to make us successful. So
Thank you. So I think I'm hearing kind of that knitting the employment piece, even with public sector employers, can be difficult to get that piece. And then also, I appreciate what you said about working with private employers is needing to potentially change the verbiage that we're using. And that has been a thing for a long time, where in education we talk a certain way, employers talk a different way. And even though it's all English, it doesn't actually translate to each other. So are we speaking in a way that it makes it enticing for employers to participate? So thank you for pointing that out. Joseph, what do you wish that you knew, or what do you think would be helpful for others to know?
I think certainly I would agree with this notion that these are programs that are iterative and you are constantly refining them. They will not look the same way they do on day one as they do at X point in time in the future. I would also say that, to that end, so we at American River College have been working in and around the new and innovative program space, specifically CAI grants, since 2015. We were one of the very first colleges that were granted a CAI grant. And since then, we've been awarded just about under $2.2 million for over the course of 5 different programs, some pre-apprenticeship, mostly others that are apprenticeship. And I mention that because I think having a conversation around launching a program, certainly with a grant fund, is vastly beneficial. However, having really deep conversations around sustainability from the very beginning is equally as important. And it's really sometimes, I think, difficult for one to project, like, what is this program going to look like, this new baby that we're creating of a program that is going to look different, and I don't know what it's going to look like in 3 years. How am I going to put funds or resources towards that program in a way that will continue to sustain it beyond certainly the life of this grant? And those are, again, there's no one answer to that question, but it does look very different for different organizations, and especially for employers that are not prepared for understanding what those costs are, whether it be for training, whether it be for the wages and the benefits of hiring someone and keeping them and retaining them, right, which is critical and a huge benefit for these programs. But again, what does that look like over the long term? Likewise, certainly as community colleges, our cost of instruction may not necessarily line up with those rates that you saw earlier for RSI, and certainly there are very large pots of funds that we as community colleges have access to, but whether or not that translates to fully funding a program in the way that a grant does, those two things are not the same. And so, again, having those conversations and just really being open and honest about what sustainability from a fiscal perspective looks like, from an employee retention perspective looks like. There will always be different champions and folks moving in and out of your programs. And so who or what will be that kind of guiding source that we can always refer back to say, oh, that's why we're here, or, oh, that's the direction we're moving in. All of those things I think are important, but we couldn't have foreseen that when we first started, and now I think we have the benefit of hindsight, but I think those are all important things I wish I would have known.
Yes, thank you for that. And I think it lends well to collaboration too, that sustainability piece. I had other questions for you. I'm not going to ask them. I want to give an opportunity to see if there anyone in the physical room or in the virtual room has a question for any of our panelists before we move on to some collaboration time. Yeah. Oh, I'm supposed to give you a mic. Hold on. Instructed.
Well, I really appreciate the panel, and I want to just comment on one thing, this notion of good jobs. It came up a few times. So someone says if it's $33 an hour, it's a good job. If it's below, let's not do those jobs. But it's relative, right? You're working with a person that's working 2 or 3 jobs because they can only manage to get 10 or 15 hours at a time. A good job is 40 hours a week with a consistent schedule. And if you add on you're going to pay me vacation, and you're going to give me holidays. Now that's an add-on. Then if you add on top of that, annual increases, chance for mobility, and that becomes a very good job for a large portion of our population. And then with that confidence and that stability, that can now lead to one day saying, you know what, I'm going to go for that $30 an hour job now. So I just really appreciate that. And just, I don't know if you can comment on just those folks who saying this is a good job for me.
So I think I was the one that said that because I hear from my own agency. The other half of my agency is workforce development, and they are very much interested in those construction, those jobs that pay more. And one of the things that my side of the building, the Head Start side, struggle with was that there's value in everything. And much like you shared, my clientele, my parents that went through our program, much like yours, they were either unemployed, underemployed, and now they are coming to a job every day between 6 and 8 hours a day. They are getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. They are getting health benefits for themselves. They are getting retirement. They are getting paid vacation, sick leave, personal leave, and vacation. And not only that, for me, it is that they now are becoming role models for their own children to say, if you work hard and you put the effort in, you can achieve whatever you want. And you've watched mommy do it, and I know that you can do it too. So thank you so much for that.
Yes, thank you for bringing that. Let me check in the virtual room. Is there anyone who has a question there before we go back to the physical room?
There is. Hi, disembodied voice here. Hope y'all can hear me. This question is from Anna. How many hours a week are youth expected to work a week along with school, sports, clubs, and extracurriculars?
You want to take that, Pam?
Thank you for that question. We understand these are high school students, and so our students are only working an average of 5 hours a week when they're juniors, and then that goes up to about 7 hours a week during the school days, the school weeks while school is in session. Over the summers, then they're working between 25 and 30 hours a week. And they are getting progressive wage increases, and they all start at minimum wage, but they get an increase, and our program has 5 wage increases over the program.
Thank you. That was a great question. And your question?
I was, in fact,
the question is to speak a little more about how it's integrated into high school curriculum. Pam, is that you?
So at this point, if a high school student is in a class that has been articulated with a community college, then that class can be counted toward the related supplemental instruction. All of our programs so far, all of the coursework is taken through a community college. But I love this question because just on January 17th, there was a new rule proposed through the Department of Labor called the CTE Apprenticeship. And this is something that is so brand new, it's blowing my mind. And that's where they're hoping to integrate 900 hours. This is a proposal. It's not for sure yet. 900 hours of on-the-job training and close to 352 hours of, or 340 hours of related supplemental instruction that starts in high school. So that's a proposal that's coming forward. Keep in mind, an apprenticeship is driven by the employer, and so the employer can determine where they want that supplemental instruction to come from. So if our employers want that to start at the high school level in one of their CTE, Career Technical Ed, capstone classes, there's no reason we can't design it that way. So that's the way I would like to move forward in a combination, because I think our students need to have that college education as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. Is there any, I want to take maybe one more question. Is there another question in the virtual room?
Absolutely. So from Megan, how do you answer employers when they get nervous about working with students under 18, and how do you let them know that they can apprentice under 18?
Well, I can open that up for anybody. I don't know if the only youth program is Pam or if others have.
Well, that's the key question, isn't it? And it's going to go back to tomorrow's workforce is in the classroom today. We need to value our under 18-year-olds, and we need to be able to say to the employer that, look, this is a program that is going to get education that you have approved and you have asked for to supplement what you are doing in your on-the-job training. That's one of the major barriers, is how do we get employers to value 16 and 17-year-olds? And my snarky way of answering that is, you were 16 once. What was your job?
Oh, so snarky's allowed. That is.
I'm old, and you know what? I'm sorry. I just feel as though that our youth is where it is, and we need to invest in them for the future for all of us, just like all of us are saying. And this apprenticeship model can work.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know if anybody else wanted to contribute. Otherwise, we can leave that there.
I just, you know, it's similarly, I know we're talking about youth, but I'm going to tell you the employers have a hard time valuing young people generally, where we're seeing how important it is. What I will tell you is that even when we first started this, we had multiple applicants who even have 4-year degrees who are saying, gosh, I've been looking for a job for a year and I haven't even got an interview. And they've, you know, and these are individuals who have, you know, they might have a computer science degree or MIS, things like that. And because they didn't have the work experience, and what's happening is that when you think about like the Indeeds and the Zip recruiters and the typical way that someone would apply for a job, they're getting screened out, you know, through AI. And so they don't even get that opportunity. And so these apprenticeship programs not only give them the skills, but also give them the skills to understand the industry, the landscape, how to network, how valuable added certifications are. So, you know, for us, I would say our next target is to really look at those high school students, because we know that the program that we have right now will model that last senior semester just in the way it's designed. And so we're always looking for, you know, those opportunities where, you know, in this year, we're going to have upwards of 100 plus slots to fill. And wouldn't it be really awesome if we could fill them with, you know, 18-year-olds who are so excited about getting into tech. So anyway.
Thank you. Yeah,
thanks,
Joseph, did you have, I don't know if you were trying to say something.
The only thing that I would add is that, and I think that my colleagues have said it in the same way, is that it's about understanding your why. Right? Is why are we here, and what are we here to do, and who do we truly want to serve, and how are we going to make that impact? I think that is, maybe I would flip that question back in the same way to say, you know, what is the goal here, and let's focus on that first, and then designing a program around that.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Hillary, who's going to tell us, so depending on where you registered, what group you wanted to be a part of, she's going to tell you what breakout room you're going to be going to and who's going to help get you there. So this is Hillary. She's our Senior Project Manager over Workforce Development. And actually, she planned this event with this young man right here, D'Angelo Andrews. So I just got here.
Thank you so much to all of the panelists and everyone who spoke or contributed for this event. It's been fabulous. I'm going to bid our Zoom guests adieu. The rest of this event is going to be in person. So those of you that have joined us online, we really appreciate your contribution. We'll be sending you materials afterwards. We'll have this recording, even though we started a little bit late. The recording will be posted on YouTube, and we'll email everybody so they have a link to that and they can access it. We'll also email everyone a PDF of the slide deck, so some of that really important information you'll have at your own access. But for those of you that are staying with us, we are going to be meeting in different basically disciplines or subjects. And so we have a collaborative breakout session on mental and behavioral health, and that's in the solar room. You'll have a couple of different facilitators. So thank you for those of you that are joining us to help facilitate a discussion. So it's mental and behavioral health in the solar room, and that's upstairs. It's a really beautiful room. Oh, thank you. D'Angelo got it up onto the screen, so you can see it up there. The solar room's upstairs. The public sector collaborative group is going to be meeting at the White Rock Room, which is just outside this door and to the right. You can quickly pass by the food and grab some more brownies if they're not all packed up. And then the information technologies will be in this room. That's the Rubicon room, and we're going to be sharing it with the Green Jobs group, also in the Rubicon room. And then the other one is education and early learning, and that's in the lighting classroom, which is also upstairs, and you get to see fancy SMUD lighting. So I hope everyone up here knows where they're going, and if you don't, you can tap either Angelina, D'Angelo, Liz, Renee, or myself, and we can direct you to the right place.